Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about how to guess the zodiac sign Gemini, and yes, it does apply and pertain to the sun, moon, and ascendant. Well, anyway, people, first thing talk about as far as guessing the sign Gemini by appearance, keep in mind you have to factor in race and ethnicity into the equation. So say if somebody is African American, some of this may not apply and pertain to him or her. So anyway, and also you may wind up guessing someone's rising sign or ascendant by accident, or even the moon sign in some instances, especially the rising sign as opposed to the sun sign. If they have it, say, if you guess somebody was a Gemini and you said, and they said, well, no, I'm not a Gemini. Well, there's a good chance their ascendant or moon may be in Gemini, and that's what you wind up guessing. So, because the ascendant, especially since that dominates the physical appearance. So anyway, first thing to look at, as far as Gemini in their appearance goes, well, Gemini is often tall in stature. They often are, the build is generally lithe and slender. They often have long arms and legs. Gemini people can have rather broad shoulders. They, Gemini in appearance, their head, the shape of the head is often long. It's often narrow where the ears are in that area, and then it kind of it bulges a little bit on the bottom part of the head and the top part of the head. It protrudes a little bit out on the top and then on the bottom, but more narrow between the ears. Gemini people often have high foreheads. They often have lengthy features. The complexion is often light. The hair is generally dark in color, at least from my observations. The eye color can often be hazel. The nose is often rather lengthy and can be pointed at the end. The upper lip, sometimes Geminis can have that no upper lip look. Rod Serling, if I remember correctly, had Gemini rising, and somebody referred to him, I believe it was on a Sports Center show or on ESPN. They referred to him as the man with no upper lip. I thought that was kind of interesting because they could have that look and no upper lip look. The upper lip can protrude and often is not nearly as visible as the lower lip. And anyway, and the eyebrows for Gemini can often be almost rather straight in contrast to many of the other zodiac signs. And also really that as far as the complexion goes, as I stated before, just very can be rather light in their complexion. And they often have a rather animated look to them, Geminis, very expressive and animated. Now, as far as anything else goes other than the appearance in terms of trying to guess when you're trying to guess somebody and making your realization, at least in your mind, that they are a Gemini, well, Geminis often, they can be fidgety with things. Geminis can often be very nervous and restless, and they have a hard time sitting still. I heard from someone that many of you may remember actor Danny Bonaducci, who was with, he's on the Partridge Family, and now he does, every so often you'll see him on TV, on cable or something, and I heard that he has a hard time sitting still when he has Gemini rising. Imagine that. And another thing is with Geminis, they often walk very fast. They're often very fast with their speech. And Geminis are very loquacious, bordering on being garrulous. And they can often, they'll talk over others in conversation. They'll interrupt people, not being malicious really in most cases, but they will, but because their thoughts are often racing ahead of others that are talking. A lot of times they're in a hurry to finish the sentence that you may have started. You're on one plane, and in Gemini, is already ascended to another level, basically. So, and Geminis too. I mean, when they talk, it's very the mannerisms. They're very they make a lot of gestures with their hands, often very gesticulative. When you see somebody talking with their hands very frequently, it's a very good possibility you're in the company of a Gemini sun, moon, or ascendant. And as far as anything else, as far as Gemini goes in terms of identifying a Gemini, well, as I stated before, they can be very fast talkers. They often they really have a hard time being stagnant. That's like a dirty word to them, having to sit still. And Geminis too, also with the eyes, I notice the eyes seem to often dart rapidly when they're talking. It's almost like they're dart. It's almost symbolic of them as far as darting from one subject or idea to another. Gemini is not exactly the most persistent of the zodiac signs. They could assimilate a lot of information in a rather short period of time, but a lot of times they lack the follow-through and the stick-to-itiveness that other zodiac signs may have, such as a Taurus or Leo, for example. So, and it's interesting that many of you may know my moon is in Gemini, and I've had some people guess me as Gemini. I thought it's interesting because I don't really feel, I mean, the moon, I don't think it really plays much role in the person's appearance. That's just my own personal opinion. Some people may think otherwise. I think the appearance is more connected with the ascendant and the sun sign over the moon, without a doubt. Especially the ascendant, as we know, can dominate the appearance. So, but maybe it was something in my personality that was coming out, that they saw the Gemini and it really wasn't much in the appearance. I'm not really sure. But anyway, it really, Geminis too are often they're very lighthearted about things, but I think a lot of Geminis could be a little more sensitive than they actually are. And a lot of times Geminis will say, okay, I'm going to be somewhere at a certain time, but then they may not show up. You might get a call from them at some point. Sometimes they won't call, and they're not doing it to be really inconsiderate or anything. They just really is, sometimes with them something more important may have come up, and they really don't feel like what they did necessarily was really that malicious towards somebody. And but sometimes somebody might take it the wrong way that doesn't realize sometimes what Gemini can be about, and they're generally not ones to be malicious or try to hurt somebody intentionally anyway. But and also the Gemini person can also be contradictory. They might say one thing about somebody one minute, and then all of a sudden they just change their mind on it in the next minute. I had a friend of mine one time that has Gemini rising, and he was talking about his viewpoint on law enforcement, and he said, one minute he said like the police are terrible, then he said they're cool, like almost like, like less than a minute after he had said he thought they were terrible or had his bad viewpoint on them. So I thought that was interesting. So anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for guessing the zodiac sign Gemini. And stay tuned next time, where I'll be talking about guessing the zodiac sign Cancer. Two things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person astrologically speaking based on this alone, because astrologically speaking, the person is the sum of all their components in their natal chart and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.